So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us to this session. Uplifting immediate perspective and AI perspectives from the field. So we're here representing an organization called LIFT. I'll do it. Yup, that works. All right. So LIFT is a grassroots organization with LIFT CUNY that is advancing digital learning by bringing together people across the community that are professional staff that focus on instructional design, educational technology, online learning, LMS administration, any sort of student faculty support where technology is concerned. And our mission is to kind of come together, have conversations, to support each other, and help develop the visual spaces around beauty and break some of those silos that rely curriculum with. So my name is Kenny Hirschman. I am the director of the Frankfurt Center of Learning Satellite Technology at Hunter College School of Education. These are my interests, if anyone cares. So we've got Vertical from the Assistant Director of Education at Lehman College. We have Maria Guzman, professional designer at Brooklyn College. We have Muzek Lapa, information technology specialist at City College. City Tech. And we have Stephen Bible, digital scholarship librarian, so professor at Gadget. So I would start off with each of you, kind of talk a little bit about your role in this and what sort of AI and code we're involved with.
Joseph. Hello, everybody. And first, we apologize for being in the first panel. I up to the last of the plant. But as I said, I'm the digital scholarship librarian at the Graduate Center. I've spent a lot of time earlier with humanities, social science students want added digital components in their work, which is to say, they're capstone OBCs, the dissertations. They want to learn the computational literacy, computational techniques. And as of recently, that's also included, LLMs, AI assisted programming, and things like that.
Hi everyone, I'm Leah. I'm an instructional designer in academic IT, which is not to be confused with ITS, working with a separate unit. We're probably the only ones in being system to have a separate academic IT department. And one of the roles that I play is I provide professional development, specifically in education technology for faculty and staff. And I kind of have my hand in a lot of different things that are happening on campus because I conduct most of the training of folks who want to learn my use AI, both faculty and staff. I'm also involved in a really exciting project, which is led by Steven, where we are being mentored as we use agent and AI to help create custom apps for our guests. And one of the apps that I'm building is something that we've helped with accessibility recreation of PDF files for our faculty. So that's one of the things that I'm working on. And of course, I work with Five. You can help integrate AI into that as well.
I don't know anything. Okay, well, I go, but maybe I'm EO. Right. So I'm Durbin with Virgo. I'm the associate monoline education at Lehman College. I'm fortunate enough to work in the Center of Teaching and Learning, which is a part of the Office of the Provost. We run various initiatives in the Center of Teaching and Learning, somewhat focused on faculty development in terms of online learning. We have a really robust OER program that leverages engraved Wikimedia in residence at CUNY Central, Richard Nipple. And we do a lot of different kinds of programming and thinking about UDL, kind of having like classical alignment between learning objectives, assessment methodologies, kinds of like ground up approaches printing, and then we think about technology. So it's a really exciting opportunity, and a benefit of profoundly being in this organization. We've got a lot of great feedback and ideas from our colleagues, which makes the job even more enjoyable for it.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa DeLawfer and I work at the Academic and Technology Online Learning Department. My director is Julius. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here, so he sent me as his representatives. We do have a couple of initiatives going on activity front. My main role is to support faculty, students in teaching and learning using AI. We try to integrate AI in we are supporting at all this for break space. So we always encourage our faculty members to use various tools in AI such as compiling, of the labs, Google Labs, and all of the other tools that we have out there to create design assessments, activity courses. Um, we do have a couple of departments can we collaborate with. One of them being the AI. I'm sorry. This is my first time that I am having members. Uh, so one of the departments that we do coordinate with is the AI passport at City Tech. They just we just had an AI symposium where it was where we talk about the ethics of AI, the usage in classrooms, usage for students, and how AI is being used in strategic industries such as healthcare, engineering, and other areas. Right now, we are designing the teaching with AI course on grad space for faculty. So we're teaching everybody use tools, we call it from practice. So we all frighten the faculty with prompt engineering. So we decided to rename it to prompt crafting. Um, we also collaborate with Gano's partner called Improve Up, which they provide with Barry, the director of that department is the Gippo Moda, and I'm gonna give mom credit for it for inviting us to participate in this program. So essentially that program is for issuing micro credentials, a population of courses that we're trying to expand the courses that we offer using micro credentials, where we also use tools such as Open Badge Factory to issue these badges. We can create the badge factory. And Open Badge Factory is great too because the cost is not a lot. We know budgeting could play a huge factor in this. Um, and Open Badge Factory also comes with uh, it comes with its own issuing methods, such as it integrates with LMS with the price-big LMS that you can create a digital badge on the badge factory and automated bright space, and then the students can claim it and save it on another app called Open Badge Passport, which Open Badge Factory offering. And from there, they can share it to their LinkedIn, they can share it in their emails, and it'll help them when they're out in the workforce. We also have another initiative that we're working on in our department. It's called Elevated, where we offer a series of webinars and web series where it's more hands-on for faculty. We're teaching them how to use AI to design their assessments and design their courses and give them ideas on how to use AI. And faculty in their courses, the students keep engaged. We also explore tools like Adobe Express. So with Adobe Express, you can do so many things. You can create flyer, you can generate images, you can generate videos. So it's a powerful tool. And right now we're also experimenting with a robot called Louis. I don't know if you have like heard of Louis, but Louis it's an AI powered desktop companion where it's used with your phone. So you put the phone on the robot and you can program it or you could prompt it to be an assistant. So right now we are playing within, we're trying to get it to be our assistant in bright space to answer any student questions that we have. There is a limitation, however, that whenever you do prompt it, it'll work and it will help you and it's great. But the problem comes when you turn it off. Everything resets. So right now that's a major issue with Louis. But it's good to have. It's a good experiment. We like to experiment with technologies that involve AI to help our faculty member that's sick.
We text to the law stock.
It,
What's that? And at Hunter, we have a lot of initiatives going on right now. So I work in the School of Education, and we are sort of the source of the Don't AI Alone node at Hunter. We had an AI working group with our faculty, and there's also several special interest groups across Hunter College. I'm currently working with a project called Digital Foundations, which is the series of learning modules for our students, starting with an orientation module so that they understand technology that they were using at Hunter and at CUNY. There's the AI companion that is built into this tool, and as we go along, will be a future module will cover a number of topics, including critical AI literacy, including computational thinking, and other skills that we think are critical, especially for teachers. So AI has had a huge impact on all of us, as we know, just in the last couple of years. And I was thinking even recently about how there's things that Mike can do now, AI you didn't do 2 years ago. Well, folks, or feels different now in your work. Nerds will say the year ago. And anybody can answer this.
I'm a far better writer. So told. I mean, I think the AI leverage is a fascinating opportunity. I think the difficulty with it is there's a lot more noise as to signal, and we have to really inform our students and our faculty, frankly, to be a tad more critical and approach it as an opportunity, but just to realize there's no I to AI. I mean, it's still a probability mechanism. It's still trying to make you happy, even when it's wrong. I mean, I don't know about you, but like when you tell the AI, like that was completely incorrect, it's like, yeah, right, it was. Nuts. You're gonna get fired. So, like, I think it further reifies we have to be here together to think about how we can approach realistically and somewhat skeptically how we can utilize this tool, because it is tossing about.
That huge control.
Yeah.
I think for me, it becomes a lot more prolific in everything that I do. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Sometimes I feel like there's 3 of me not there running around. But it's also great to finally be able to get to some projects that are part on Vapor for a while, or at least start sketching things out so that I know what's coming down of me in terms of like the programs that I need to build, or with who I need to liaise. That's all like neatly organized for me with all kinds of alternative paths, analyses, everything just waiting for me to start working on. So in that regard, I think it's been really great having AI.
Well, I don't know. I talked to you about it one time, your rendering group. But people often say that somewhere around December last year, Frontier LLMs turned a corner in their agentic use. They have certain tools that they were able to call, and through just generating texts, they were able to call those tools using sometimes called a harness. And using those harnesses on our computer has really multiplied the amount of work that we could do. And that, along with, I use what's called a speech to text model. So I just kind of talk to my computer now, and it does what I asked it to do. And that stuff is accelerated to even greater degree. Oftentimes, they are able to do what's called computer use now, where you can see a little ghost mouse click around for you and fill out things. So essentially, I just hear my kids, they say, like, what are you talking to, Daddy? Oh, I talk back to her. And, they're more used to that. So it's a weird boundary to be dealing with. But, yeah, more and more, I just ask my computer basic things. And that's a difference.
The Kaplan's law and Sardays, the charger or book price.
Yes. You're in.
I think for me, it helped expand my role, IT support to offering or helping our faculty find ways to integrate AI into their courses and to simplify um, creating their syllabi and other assignments and helping them brainstorm ideas on how to simplify content for their students.
I find that it's been very helpful for me when I get stuck. It's a place that I can go to get some ideas. It used to be that we would have to run those ideas up another person. Now we can run it off of the computer. Although for you, it's kind of the same thing. But how have your conversations shifted when you're speaking with faculty, to your students, or your colleagues, or with students?
Well, I'm part of the group as well who is trying to make these sorts of things available to faculty CUNY-wide. We may or may not be aware, Sheridan is very difficult CUNY, but especially software and especially software as a service, especially things that you suspect. And so there's actually almost no pathway currently to giving or letting people use these technologies on their terms. People have things like Copilot, but these are very bounded tools versus what's possible. There are things like open models, and, just all our various different harnesses, as I mentioned before, that really can enable new forms of work that people are not being allowed to explore. And I really do need faculty and staff. I mentioned in a previous conversation that I'm wary of that in the context of learning, in terms of like establishing the correct boundaries, but it's definitely something they have to look at. But especially for faculty and staff who need to understand or feel extent or capability of these technologies, it's not possible yet for them to really experience that unless we figure out procurement, which is unfortunately the most boring thing in the world, but very real, and available here. So we're working towards that. Something called the QD AI Lab, also LIFT, and just taking one step every day. Being business offices, by asking them, which various vendors they have relationships with. But
Well, I think at the start, there was a lot of like invasion of the body statue stuff, faculty being like, I can never use expository writing again as a major means of assessment, which many of them were using too much to begin with, and afforded us an opportunity to think about UDL, multimodality approach. It's thinking about, why are you teaching this and for what purpose beyond just you were doing this for 40 years, full academy. And so, in a way, now, fortunately, faculty is really doing a loving rate scholarship. At Lehman, we were fortunate enough to get a grant that we broke into mini grants that are showcasing how faculty in the various disciplines are developing not just, it's the coolest stuff ever, but also developing those critical literacy skills, that ability to go forward and really investigate. And I think it's really affording them the opportunity to think about, how long are you assessing this way forever? It's an opportunity to get a real conversation about curriculum. And that's super exciting, and I think faculty are adapting. So we had wonderful faculty. And we're never seeing them really going forth with a scholarship. So I think we're getting out of the woods, thank God. But at first, a lot of you were very stressed out, and it's understandable.
I think we went from being for faculty to grow comfortable using AI for their courses, to now we're trying to get them to become a little bit more comfortable with integrating AI. And We at City Tab, we started partnering also with a very partner to try to create hypothetical courses for them. We have a tool that we can procure called Mindsmith, which is a really helpful tool that generate the courses and the contents for the nursing department. Right now, we're also trying to expand we're trying to expand to which applies space of the department. Our goal right now is we're working with the business office, with the business department to try and help them bring over some of their courses, create their courses on MindSpace, on Mindsmith, I'm sorry, and then through the downloading of the package via form, they can upload it into Brightspace. Students can listen to video of it. That work greatly. At Brooklyn, a lot of our faculty are still very resistant to the very idea of AI being used in any sort of way in education. So our conversations kind of center on that, I think some of them are starting to realize that that ship has sailed a long time ago, and they're starting to kind of wake up to the reality of the situation, starting to get on board with the piece, revising some of their assessment methodologies so that they don't use the same old assignment prompts, which the student could very easily put into the most basic AI chatbot and get a fairly instant submission on it. So that's where we are.
I find the same thing, that resistance was probably the first reaction that most people experience, and then some curiosity. But more and more, and I find people are accepting that this is the new reality and trying to figure out ways to adapt and thrive in this new environment. Like Dermot was talking about. So I mean, we talked a little bit about the procurement issues and other issues that we're dealing with, but what are some of the biggest challenges or points of friction we're experiencing with AI on the campus?
FERPA. That it doesn't have to do. Don't put your biography in Claude. I mean, we have to remind people, be very careful about Copilot is limited, but it's FERPA compliant. The engine isn't being looking at your data to build out. And there's an IP clause. So Firefly, you mentioned Adobe Express, image creator, FERPA compliant, no IP concerns, allegedly. So that's the real concern, is making sure our faculty realize what maybe they cannot use in terms of their data and where, because it's dangerous, frankly.
Well, actually, for us, it's very similar. So either you have faculty who don't really want to hear about AI, or you have faculty who are now diving in head first. We got us figuring out what tools to use for what purpose. And, they're shocked to find out that there are certain tools they shouldn't be using, especially if they're running their students' assignments through it to help them catch patterns or whatever it is that they're doing, right? Or, that they're exporting their whole rosters into Chat GPT or something like that to to build interactive assignments or anything like that they're doing. So so a lot of it is just making sure that the most basic AI privacy and literacy information gets out there and it kind of starts to percolate. I think for us is trying to stay transparent when we see the TI and stay with the limits I for the student to keep their academic integrity. And it's harder nowadays. There's a lot of tools that can detect when what a student is plagiarizing, but not all tools are accurate. So we also have to be careful in that area where it's too soon to use those AI detection tools to 100% accurately figure out if a student is not using AI.
Something we haven't mentioned is some of the labor concerns. My teaching peer mentoring group, I'm teaching a lot of librarians and staff at faculty who are now able to do a lot more than they were doing in the past. And I tell them to not tell the boss. And I don't know that they are listening to them. And I also not everybody listen to myself on that, which is that there is going to be and is pressure about labor and the capacity of individual to do more versus how many people are doing dollar now. And I think more people should be thinking about that and talking about it. And I was heartened to see that there was a union conversation recently about AI, and I hope to see more of them. I hope to see union conversations about that specific part of the pressure.
Yeah. I find on myself, the more we can get done, the more expected that we do. Right? So we'll take at that. What trends or shifts do you see shaping your work over the next 1 to 2 years? Obviously, things change so quickly right now when it comes to AI, so it's kind of hard to predict. But just off the top of your head.
Well, D2L is doing a rollout, as are most of the major LMS players. And there's going to be a further integration, obviously, into their platforms to try to automate some of these kinds of processes that we could do in the past with some intelligent agents. But it has to be your hobby because it's so time consuming. I can't count on any faculty doing it. But the other concern then also is what we've just seen Arizona State University, the Atomic app. For those of you who don't know, yesterday inside higher education, it was revealed that there was an application at ASU that was basically, they called it Frankenstein's, trading out different components of different courses and and creating a new course without a pedagogical backbone, which is hyper dangerous. And the faculty didn't even know. And they had photos of them on that. And then in the article, it gets even worse. Mr. Google's here. And ASU, the IP is not with the faculty. It's with ASU. And I just hope and pray CUNY make sure we never walk down that road, because I think you're going to see more of these instances coming up where it's just pedagogically unsound. And it's worrisome, how these LMSs are going to leverage the faculty data. I mean, that's their work.
Yeah, that was a very disturbing article. You're right about that. Also, I guess for me, in the next few years, I see further automation of my work to a great degree, and then a need to imagine what I want to spend my time, what I think that in my case, the librarianship and teaching of humanities or science students, what is actually valuable in me as a person versus what can be done very straightforwardly by a computer more and more. And if it's done on a computer, it can probably be done by not a person in the near future and the rest of the And so while I want to be spending my time in a new world where I can choose something that isn't active or curious in the same. It's more with people, more with talking along about her together.
I think in 1 and 2 years, we will see AI being implemented in a lot of areas. And we just want to be using it or seeing it work. We're probably going to move from a place of curiosity to differentiation. And I know there was a lot of worry when it first was mentioned. But now I feel like the population is getting a little bit more comfortable with Indian, even in their daily life. So I think we're going to see a lot more agents in education. They're going to become more commonplace and not just integrated into our mess, but also personal agents that are there to help people, help students learn, right? That can be customized. So obviously positives and negatives there, But what I hope to see is actually a return to some of the, fundamental elements of pedagogy and, and reevaluation of how humans learn, different ways in which humans learn and integrating a lot more social learning and shifting our focus from product to process. This is something I've been talking about ad nauseum since, Chat GPT came out. Because if we return to something like a cognitive apprenticeship model of instruction, what's going to end up happening is that we're going to be, as faculty, mentoring and guiding the next generation of practitioners in whatever field, right? And that's something that cannot, at least wholesale, be outsourced to AI. It's not yet. And this is something that also will shape the different fields in which this becomes the instructional model. So that's kind of my aspirational vision.
I'm back to ask me about what you were saying, Steve, because it's impossible for us to predict what AI is going to be capable of in the next years. Although we can imagine it's going to be a lot more capable than it is now, and potentially has the possibility of doing a lot of what we are currently doing, especially our world where technology is central. But the idea that allowing the technology to do what it does and allow us to come back into a human space and an interpersonal space, something that I think has been seriously lacking in the post-pandemic world, is an exciting prospect, especially when we're living in a world right now with a lot of pessimism. That's I think, a break point that we can maybe think about, that if AI can take over a lot of those technical components of what we do, then we can return or emphasize the human components of what we're doing. I mean, that's an exciting basket shit. So does anybody here have any questions?
This is something I thought about Bill's answer. The idea of people are being a little bit more vocal about their AI use, similar to how people are more vocal with their psychiatric education. It's something that if you're a bun-eye, you really don't want AI as an innate side in it. But in my day-to-day, I see that so much better, so much easier to do things and visualize the sexual aspect and move on to the next thing. So is there a way to make this more acceptable? Is there a way, a future that you see people using this better or informing themselves to not be afraid of the call, as it were? Like, this is the next idea of a generation. But I don't know what the question is there, so I'm just trying to inform them.
It's an interesting one because it is a tool, right? Yeah. So, if we use an Agile tool, it has so many methods we can trade up about them.
Yeah. So mentorship and actually showing people how we use the tools so that they're not scared, right? Because there's lean up reputation on our campuses for, producing high quality work, right? To share how AI is helping in our processing and our workflows, how we are able to incorporate it in like very thoughtful and responsible ways to help us rather than to kind of like offload all important decision making to the machine. That's going to raise their confidence levels so that, finally we're scouting at, everybody's rethinking what's thinking. So show them how practitioners who have reputation for, high quality work are actually using AI in their day-to-day workflow.
I mean, again, it's an extraordinary opportunity to be grounded to real teaching methods to being explicit, transparent, grounded. But there has to be the self-critical piece, and there has to be the constitution to go forward on it. We have to do it collectively, and we have this opportunity. So again, it is quite interesting, and we'll have to see how it plays out. But it's there, and we can do it.
I think people are also like losing their job, like worse. Privilege as well. And so like they're afraid of using ideas, but like can I do they actually speaking like wow, this will really take my travel with more. what am I going to do in the future? Was my child going to be there? My first being like parents used to be job, right? So I mean, I think like how we have those restructured courses like hey, this to show student you can do better job with AI coming with or the next like class the areas or more as they really not a real institution. But I think the applicants are and really do that. With the main thing is to make sure that our students are in our fluid. So they know how to incorporate AI into their work and therefore make themselves invaluable. It was he who raised the topic of procurement. And I just wanted to ask Peculiar in a little bit what DeFi was that land box of procurement in terms of and that's because I was a always like work on them on procurement extensively now the last past year. And so I am keeping the eye on myself or like taking insights and that panel was nerding was really nice. We talked a little bit about the line between whether or not it's being as a guide or help or a source of inspiration, but whether or not cheating. Now, we and our network happened to read this book, Teaching with AI, and on our discussions last week, we talked about how accountability and professional and ethical norms is something that needs to be established. We might talk about right the institution, right? So, how do you, with the case in their building, how many finance can be in its constitution, company and professional ethical norms being established amongst colleagues, amongst students?
Oh, well, sorry, procurement. I don't want to belabor the point too much because it's very painful.
Yes, yes.
There are, as far as we can tell, no straightforward contracts. That you were to this is up with some central almost. I would love to have your card that needs me. I would sort of keep on for you and then but the issue is you need to talk to the various one needs to talk to the various sources of these models, especially for fire to actually get. There's a lot of services that are sort of bundling AI in a kind of vendor-y software thing, but we want also to get at the technology itself in order to be more interpretive on our own, but critical and be able to build on the real foundational things. And that's being blocked by the ridiculous main rules of procurement that, there's nothing available, what's called something called Open Router, provides a huge number of open models. You pay per token, so it's like 1 cent per token, and you go to features this model, that model, that model. You gain a kind of currency and critical viewpoint from this thing does that and this thing does that, and understand the sort of genetic intelligence of these things. So there are also AI data which is from Amazon AWS, Google, Cloudflare has some bit, but we go and we talk to them and they're like, you don't have a contract. And you need to talk to this third-party vendor who will all bid for your contract. I'm like, okay, we'll do that. If they come in on them, probably had a run into them, but not for this thing, not for AR Gateway, because they're beautiful. It's not anybody's contract, and you just can't do it. And it will happen eventually, but it hasn't happened yet.
Well, working off rules that were written for a totally different time. And I think that needs to get updated. Yeah. Just like Dermot was saying, and AI has sort of broken through these age-old pedagogical practices. I think they need to break through these age-old business practices as well. We were running out of time, so just really quick, I'm sorry. Can each of you just say really quickly, what's your hot take on where CUNY needs to go next with AI, either on your campus or at the system?
Let's do our faculty. Like, they're really developing this stuff. We have to really get behind them and realize and respect.
Think standardizing AI guide for everyone for faculty and for students. And we're showing them showing that way where they can do things ethically. Also encouraging our faculty to add that AI academic integrity policy in their syllabus. So when students can have an idea on what is ethical, what is acceptable, what so make career readiness of our students the focal point of everything that we do because it is an existential crisis for them. And be forward thinking about the kind of skills and access to technology that they're going to need, because then that's gonna dictate what access to technology we need as instructional designers, as technologists, and most importantly as faculty, and also what skills our faculty need in order to teach the United States people, for sort of be successful when they go out there into the world.
Outside classroom, embrace agentic processes to increase the capacity and quality of services for especially students and not staff. Throughout uni that are bottlenecked by staffing inside the classroom, and they're very hey, whether you really need to use LMS for your teaching or whether to benefit more from actual actually get every service.
I think just like the New York City Public School System just did, uni really needs some sort of community-wide guidance on AI. They get some sort of AI bill of rights, so to speak. And I want to thank this panel for joining us today, and thank all of you for coming.